Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti Jha. Ever since coronavirus came to the world as a pandemic, it has captured the news. There is no other news other than coronavirus. It is a very serious scenario. It is serious also because, thanks to the media part of it, we get to know everything rather quickly. In the past also there have been Spanish flu, there have been bubonic plague, but they became news and we got to know of it because the news traveled much later. We came to know about these tragedies much later. Today, the world is one. Never before the concept of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam that we talk about in our Hindu philosophy was more relevant than today. That everybody, the entire world is impacted by that. Temples are closed, mosques are closed, and even Pope is giving blessings from his confines. Churches are closed. Makkah travel has stopped. Restaurants are closing, and the entire activity of, to use the economics word, the supply chain and the demand part of it is impacted remarkably adversely. So coronavirus is making tremendous impact, and it has major implications for all of us. But today we are going to focus on one very specific element. And the origin of that is in this program, when I said to everybody that, and I implored upon all the viewers and everybody else, that let's drop the concept of handshake, because you have been told that don't shake hands with others, wash your hands, clean your hands. These are elementary Dr. Watson kind of a concepts, that you have to clean yourself, maintain cleanliness. Remarkably, we forgot our own concept of namaste, which had tremendous spiritual and local value, political value as well. So namaste is a way of greetings which has profound impact on each one of us because we accept the another person as our equal. So let's dive in today to discuss the entire process of Hindu philosophy, Sanatana Dharma. How is it relevant in today's context? To discuss this, I have great pleasure in welcoming my dear friend, Mr. Rakesh Bhargava. He is not only an entrepreneur, but he's an activist of a very different kind. He's a vegan, and veganism has brought about tremendous impact in his life. So that what we eat impacts us. That's very, very vital because consumption of food is critical to our life. So let's talk about the various elements of Hindu philosophy and how it can become relevant in today's context and what do we need to do about it. Because as we know, the entire conversation is driven by Christianity and Islam. Is Hinduism and Sanatana principle relevant? So let's talk about that. So Rakesh ji, let's may hear from you, and you are welcome to the program. I've missed the social formality of saying welcome to the program, but here you are not new to the program, Rakesh ji. So share with us your thought. Where does Hinduism and Sanatana principle stand, starting from the concept of namaste and how we drift into various elements of our practices that are relevant to the world around us?
Okay. First of all, Vibhuti bhai, I don't need you to welcome me. You are not only my friend, but this is my home.
Thank you.
So one does not need to be welcome in their own house. And you have done such a great job serving the community that my first round of applause to you. Second, to our viewers who have taken interest. After being on this show, I've been meeting people who said that, oh, Rakesh, we heard you. And this is a great pleasure because this is a community service. Before we go to Hindu way, I think it's important that we mention a couple of good, important websites in this day and age. So number one is cdc.gov. There are a lot of fake news, as you know, being promoted on Facebook and other social media. Second thing I like, there is a newsletter by John Hopkins. It's Center for Health Security.org. If people can go on their website, and they have almost every day they are coming out with an update, which is very important. So if you allow me, let me give you the origin and the genesis of this virus.
Sure.
How do viruses come about? And you can feel free to interrupt me. Or
No.
This is an
interruption.
No, this is an interactive.
Please do. Please do.
So number one, there is a great video by Dr. Neil Barnard on this virus. Okay. So I watched it a couple of times and not because I was coming to this program. I've been watching it for the last couple of days, couple of weeks. So number one, Spanish flu is not really Spanish flu because it didn't originate in Spain. It's originated in the trenches of the World War One.
Yes.
And the conditions in those times prompted the virus to get to it. That virus actually came from a duck. The duck got near a poultry farm that was supplying, chicken to the thing, and the chickens caught the virus from the duck. Duck is perfectly fine, that virus. But for chicken, it was an anomaly to have that, but when they ate it, it became a Spanish flu. 60 million people died. Right. Okay. Then that virus got, the children and the grandchildren become H2N2 virus. Then Hong Kong flu came, then SARS came, and obviously Ebola and multiple other viruses came. And then now this is the corona. So my grandson was asking me, why do they call it corona? So because this is the name they gave it, actually the real name is COVID-19.
Right.
But they call it novel because it didn't exist before. Now, where did it come from? It comes from Wuhan meat market. And they are suspecting two wild animals. One is wild bats. The blood of a bat, when they were slaughtering it alive, because this is a live wet market, W-E-T, not V-E-T, wet market. It probably got into somebody's hand or their face, or maybe somebody ate it while they're cutting it, who knows. And also the ant eater. These are the two suspected animals. Because this is so brand new, it's only 4 months old, so there's not much research happened. Now, virus not only get into human bodies, they also mutate. Not only that, because we drink dairy milk, we have immunity to something that our parents and our forefathers have confronted, but we have no immunity to something that is attacking us for the first time, because body has to develop antibodies to defend against themselves. So because the animals are given antibiotics, like cows are given antibiotics to protect them from diseases, we get those antibiotics through milk, and guess what? Those antibiotics that are given to us are much weaker than what they given to the animals, so a lot of these antibiotics don't work on us anymore. You heard that, right? Mm-hmm. Also, common misconception is that, vaccine is being developed, or even we don't even have proper test to test it properly, absolutely. Number one. And number two, the vaccine is going to prevent it, not cure it.
No.
So drugs are second. So what they're doing now, like in India, I heard that they're taking two combination of SARS drug and other drugs to give to people, hoping that because this is from the same lineage, it will be cured. So I just like to hear your thought process on this origin and the genesis, and then we'll go back to the Hindu way. I love that topic.
That's right, sure. I'm gonna just so the public viewers know that we have been talking about coronavirus, its impact and implication, and what you have shared is we talked about in our previous program. So
right.
Very happy that you put it so well for people to remember that how animals who we eat carry the whole process in our bodies. And therefore, vegetarianism in Hindu philosophy is a very relevant concept. And that's how we are talking about it. So I'm totally clued on to this entire thing. Yeah, so that's very good. But I wanted to dive into the other aspect of that. See, where are we in this conversation? Because I have seen so much of social media and attacking India. What will happen to India with 1.3 billion people?
Right.
Once it spreads, it's going to be chaotic. In reality, India so far seems to have contained it rather well,
right.
In terms of proactive action. So that brings about the personality of us Indians, is that we respond to crisis rather well.
Right.
So this is part of our process, the way we are, and that's how I'm talking about this element, that where are we in the global conversation? Whereas the Americans have made the elbow bump and a fake high five as a stylish thing to do, and most likely most Indians will adopt that, but nobody will promote Namaste, the most profound way of greeting people, as the way to let others accept our way of life. Right. So it is very easy for us to become like them but we don't try to propagate our own virtues for people to learn.
Right.
But it is interesting, there are so many videos where people have come forward to say the value of Indian philosophy. So let's dive into that and
Right.
see how we can make ourselves relevant in today's conversation with our philosophy. Because, you know, it's washing hands. Modi ji started Swachh Bharat campaign much before this crisis came
Right.
about.
You're absolutely
So do you realize the importance of the mind of that man who thought about
Correct.
Swachh Bharat campaign? Because we were living not a very clean life.
Right.
Even our rivers were polluted.
Right.
So the campaign of Swachh Bharat has to be a global campaign for the clean world. And cleanliness is not about XYZ, but it's a cleanliness of mind, body, and soul.
Right.
That's where yoga comes in.
Right.
So think about it, how Mr. Modi succeeded in making yoga a global phenomenon,
Right.
accepted by United Nations. There's a date designated for yoga.
Right.
That's again a Hindu philosophy.
Right.
Your thoughts?
So Vibhuti bhai, I am really so glad that we are having this wonderful conversation. And you, when you started, you said something called Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And if you consider the world as your family, I'm considering living beings, all kinds of living beings
Yes.
as our family. So number one, no harm. You would not harm your children or your grandchildren or your neighbors for that matter.
Right.
But these activities of certain community, for example, in China, when SARS came, they shut down all the wet markets. Even today, all the wet markets are shut. After a couple of months, when things started to get normal, they opened them all and it was business as usual. Now we got Corona. Now, we save money by going to China. We're taking a shortcut. Now I'm going into a little bit of business aspect. But we already lost $15 trillion worth of wealth. So there are no shortcuts. You buy a $1 McDonald's hamburger and you pay $40,000 for a stent later on. So,
Right.
I mean, to me, that's not a good trade. But we are we are short-term oriented, not long-term oriented, Like stock market is 3 months mentality, not 30-year mentality.
Right.
Second point that you read, which is very good, is talking about our philosophies and what we do in terms of namaste and so on and so forth. And another thing you mentioned in this last piece is that India, we are becoming like them. We don't have a self-respect or confidence. That's what I read into it. Yesterday, Bloomberg came out with an article. There is an avalanche waiting to happen in India. I don't understand that. We have so many crises in a country like Italy, in Spain and France and Europe and even San Francisco. They are not talking about that. They are predicting that there might be something happening in the future, which is nobody can predict.
Right.
Anthony Fauci said he was on multiple programs and they kept asking him, what is your prediction? And he says, I don't know.
Right.
Because our reaction and our response to this pandemic would dictate what the model would look like.
Right.
They're talking about flattening the curve. You know why? Because we have 960,000 hospital beds. If we get 2 million, it will be a chaos.
Right.
So they're saying, hey, let everybody get sick at their own pace only by socially distancing themselves. Second thing I'll tell you, I go to India and I get sick right away. Why? Because we live in America, we live in a sanitized society. But Indians don't get sick in the same environment. In Delhi, with heavy pollution, I didn't see that many people sick as I sick here. So their immunity is very strong, Vibhuti bhai. Let's not forget that.
वो इंडिया का पानी अंदर है ना, तो बोतल के पानी से हमें कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है.
नहीं पड़ता है. So let's talk about one more point, which is, look at the Baltimore, look at the riots in St. Louis and also after Katrina. Indians are very civil, comparatively speaking. I have an American colleague who got introduced to Indian stores in Hicksville. He called me yesterday morning and he said, Rakesh, I went to Indian store and then I went to an American grocery store. People in American grocery store are fighting with each other, throwing things at each other, fighting with cashiers, hoarding things, taking more than. Indian stores were very calm, people were observing roles. I thought that was a very astute thing. So coming back to the Hindu way, I saw a video by Prince Charles. He goes about to shake hand and then he says namaste. So you're right, the world is coming to recognize that safe distance is the right thing to do.
Yeah, and that is very important. We have to remember one thing, that when you undermine yourself, willingly, unwillingly, or just because it is the nice thing to do, we have to remember this also. that we cannot abandon our own selves and our own self-respect.
Right.
So if the world is, it's like for example, yoga and meditation, it has become more relevant in India because it has been accepted by the foreign world,
Right.
the world around us. So Time magazine calls it mindfulness. Now everybody is talking about mindfulness. In TM community that I belong to, I'm a meditator for the last 35 years, we laugh about it. Because mindfulness eventually died. The word is gradually dying because mindfulness is nothing without meditation. And we have to understand that concept. Time goes by very fast. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this short break. Welcome back. Talking about coronavirus and us Hindus, the Indians, the way we are a sizable, respectable lot in America. People look upon us with deeper respect for, I have been told and I have shared with you many times that we are said that they love Indians as immigrants to this country because we are educated, we have family values, we have cultural values, we take care of our children, we are on the high median income, we are professionals, and we ask for nothing. It's not about asking for nothing. It's about telling the world, why are we the way we are? Certain values that we have inculcated in us. So if you remember that, here we may not do that, but back home, we used to wash our feet when we came home before we did anything else.
Yep.
Chappal, jute bahar rakhte the. Think about the importance of that. Coronavirus is bringing that out today. So think about it. You are in Penn Station, you're walking the streets, you go to the restrooms. Will you walk around the house with your shoes on? So the cleanliness as a concept, swachhata as a concept, it is ingrained in us. Because Indian homes are very clean, but we dump our kachara outside. That's the total concept that we have to begin to introduce ourselves to the world. Our cleanliness processes, our behavioral processes, our eating processes. How do we, propagate that to the rest of the world? So Rakesh, your thought, and this particular thing brings me, because we talked about the animal part of it,
right.
Killing the animal. Sanatan Dharma doesn't ban,
right.
because everything and everybody is at some point in time is food for somebody or the other, right? So from that point of view, it is our responsibility to eat healthy. Otherwise, garbage in, garbage out.
Yep.
So let's talk about that part of it.
Well, to just pick up the point you made about taking shoes off, there was a study done and they discovered that the shoes are very unhealthy and infected with lot of viruses. The coronavirus can stay alive on a cardboard box for 12 hours, on metal and plastic for 72 hours.
Yes.
Okay, now this is a very preliminary study. We don't know how far the actual number is, but why not take precautions? So taking shoes off, leaving them in one corner of the house or outside the house is definitely a thing. Another thing, think about it. We go to Shamshan Bhumi or cremate our dead. First thing we do is stay outside, take all the clothes off and take a bath, because we don't know what kind of germs we're going to get there. Same thing, I remember my Naniji's house as a little kid. You cannot enter in the kitchen. I mean, I obviously couldn't enter in the kitchen, but even my mother couldn't enter in the kitchen until she has taken a bath in the morning.
Right.
And the clothes you wear have to be new for the day for the kitchen work. In my mother's house, there was a tanki. You should the toti wali ko ke nal apne wash basin to the nahi na.
That's right.
Before you do anything in the kitchen, you wash your hands. So the cleanliness, hygiene, like you are pointing out, has already been inculcated in our. It's our habit, spinal cord thinking, like you're brushing your teeth, you don't think, same way. In terms of the food habit, you're right, garbage in, garbage out. But another thing is that eating healthy and right food build your immunity, which is very critical in terms of your ability to fight diseases. Mm-hmm. Today, if you look at it, we have the best healthcare system in America, but we also have the worst health possible.
Obesity is so much.
Obesity is on the rise. Every time and there are studies done where the Western food has gone into other countries, is going into India, unfortunately, like China and Japan. The disease for heart and cancer have gone up enormously. So that's a very good point that you made. I mean, our discussion today is not about obviously the food primarily, but you made an excellent point, Vibhuti Bhai.
Yeah. Yeah, this is important because we have to consider things from its totality, and the totality is very important. That at what point in time, it's very interesting that while halal meat has become a global phenomenon, it's an economic thing, but our vegetarianism, the value of vegetarianism and vegan food has not gone on viral, if I may say so.
I agree.
So the world we have not propagated it ourselves because we adjust again. Our capacity to adjust and accommodate has been so phenomenal that I have seen people eating beef here who would never eat beef in India, but they have adjusted because it is the in thing, or it is the American way to do that. Instead of, being yourself the way you are, because we become with the choices that what we make. And that's what is important here, is that how do we, as a community, we are in the back burner of everybody's conversation. We are not in a conversation piece.
Right.
And that's what worries me. Because if you're not in a conversation, if you're not part of a conversation, then you are a nobody, regardless of what numbers you have.
Right. No, that's a very good point. See, Vibhuti Bhai, we as Hindus, I believe that we do not think of this life as an end game, so to speak. We are not physical being having a spiritual experience. We are a spiritual being having a physical experience. Ek chola utara, dusra chadhaya agle janam mein, right? This is our thinking. So we do not give much, I won't call it attention, but much respect to the material sort of achievements in this world. That's why we are modest, we are humble traditionally. I mean, things are changing obviously. So that's it. Now, talking about halal or any kind of meat products or chicken products, there is a lot of money to be made in that business. You can make money selling broccolis or cauliflowers to people. Plus, there is no way to brand cauliflower and broccoli the way you can brand a chicken product. Purdue chicken is a chicken, but it's a chicken, but it's Purdue chicken. So there are, and also a lot of subsidies given to the lobbies for dairy and meat industries and poultry industry are so strong that they get billions of dollars in subsidies from government. The nutrition books, nutrition research is sponsored by them. What kids learn in school is promoted by them.
Right.
People from the health department and the government nutrition department get hired by this industry once they retire from there. It's like, what's going on in the industry. It's all, like Coca-Cola doesn't want to turn children into obese, but they want to make money.
That's right.
So it does meat industry.
And then there are studies.
There are studies to prove it.
No, it is very, very important. And what is important also here is that look at what is happening in the world around us today. Coronavirus has impacted the entire world. Boundaries are being closed. Every disaster is an opportunity. Is this disaster an opportunity for mankind to reform himself? Think about it. Today, all those countries that were talking about open borders, they have shut down their borders. Mm-hmm. Think about it. Mm-hmm. Suddenly the concept of protecting yourself has become important.
Right.
Now, did we have to learn that element because of a disaster? Could we not be discerning enough to understand that?
Right? No, I agree. Look, you know what? There was yes, that's a very good point. First of all, we need to protect ourselves because unfortunately, virus doesn't distinguish based on caste, creed and color.
Right.
Number one. Number two, we almost lost a month in this country taking delayed action by denying the fact that the virus has happened. In smaller countries, obviously they are much smaller, so South Korea and Singapore have done an enormous job. I think South Korea has done about 200,000 tests as opposed to 5,000 or so we have done here. So that's very important. Another thing that we talked about is the respect for animal when we talk about the food. Not only the cow is our mother, but look at all the god and goddesses, their vehicles are also animals, meaning you're supposed to respect them because they are. So that sanctity for nature has come, from our childhood into our psyche, and we have sort of adopted it going forward. So to me, I think that drives our value system, that drives our respect for nature. We worship sun, we worship wind, we worship water. we worship, nature, so that's the important thing,
No, it is truly important, and that's what is important about, you got to pay the respect where it belongs. Talking about Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, no other example is better than coronavirus. The virus didn't care about religion, color, caste, gender of people.
Right.
It hit everybody. So much so that churches, temples, and gurudwaras and everything is closed down today.
Right.
Bars are closed down today because nobody can stop that. Even gods are quiet about that.
Right.
This is a very important lesson for us to learn, and this is where it is critical to understand that we are truly one. There is one sun, one earth, and one process. Right? This is the message on International Solar Alliance formation which Mr. Modi gave the world, that one sun, one grid, one earth. The world people have to adopt different practices to recognize this reality that geography determines your color, your food habits, but it doesn't tell you to brutalize something.
Right.
The respect for, like you said very correctly, and I definitely agree with you, that universe, God created everything in the universe, He created all animals too.
Right.
Rats, rodents, snakes, and mosquitoes.
Right.
And they all perform a very important function in the eco-balance.
Right? It does. They do.
We people, we the humans, are the parasite or the virus on the planet Earth.
On the planet.
Because we are defying nature.
Right.
And that's what the Gaia principle says, that Mother Nature, and they use the phrase Mother Nature, Mother Earth, that they will take care of the cleansing thing. So think about it for a moment, that with the industrial production shut down, supply chain and demand of consumer products falling this one, it will have definite positive impact on the ecology of the world around us.
Yeah, well, Vibhuti Bhai, you don't want to get corrected by death and destruction.
Right.
I mean, the thing is that prevention is better than cure.
Right.
Prevention is better than cure. So, unfortunately, if the governments were not ego-driven, or they were more sympathetic or more caring, which is their job towards the people and the society at large, if China did not withhold the information for literally month and a half, that this is broken, and then the people traveling from China to Italy and Japan were the first people they brought the infection with them. I mean, to me, this is like, and also, what is if I did something wrong and damaged somebody, I'm liable for a lawsuit and a damage. What about here? A country has done something that destroyed the world economy. Innocent people on the street, a waiter or a worker who earns day-to-day living, 40% of Americans do not have money saved for next week.
Right.
40%. Yes, we are talking about giving them $1,000 to $2,000, but the reality is that we have broken the backbone of this society in more than one way.
Right.
And how many years will it take to recover? Stock market has fallen almost 35%.
Yeah,
35% today.
Yeah.
I didn't check the last, but 35%.
Yeah.
This is
the entire gain of Trump era is gone.
Is gone.
Is gone. They're fearing the unemployment to go to 20%.
20%.
And this is what is important. The world has to arise. China accused that it is Americans who brought the virus to China. And America is saying that China suppressed the information that they were suffering from.
Exactly.
And they even object to the fact that it is a Chinese virus, that emanated in Wuhan.
Right.
There has to be a greater accountability for the human actions that make you and I helpless and make us suffer. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this short break. Welcome back. In this final segment, we are going to talk about this virus, what we have learned from it, and what is it, the impact and implication on 4 key elements of our daily life. On societies, how do we protect ourselves? On economy, how do we handle the crisis that has come about, that United States government is talking about, $1 trillion support mechanism to support various segments of the businesses like airline industry and varieties of them. The stock market, people have literally market has lost 35% of its value. The Trump era economic resurgence is over. If the stock market is any indication, while Mr. Trump has been saying that once this particular crisis is over, we'll bounce back equally fast. which is quite likely to happen too. But in terms of political impact, how is the political leadership playing this entire thing? Be aware and conscious about that part. Don't get carried away by false narratives that are being touted about, and that's important. So, and how technology can help us. So, Rakesh, begin wherever you want to begin with.
Well, this is definitely a very scary time, and we all need to take precaution. But to me, primary thing is survival in this time, and then how do we survive ourselves and our family? How do we protect it? So everybody knows, like, you're washing hands thoroughly with the soap, which is the basic thing. I've been hearing that masks, unless you're infected, are not going to protect you unless you have a proper mask. Staying 6 feet away, somebody saying 10 feet away is good. The symptoms, dry cough or a runny nose, and also fever. Fever, I think, is the most critical thing here, because the flu and the common cold does not have fever as an element, but this does. Then also, the world is going to change drastically, and maybe for good. For example, people, once they get used to working from home, then they may not like to go back. They may want to look for companies that offer that opportunity. A lot of those big tech companies do, but now the non-tech companies are also going to offer opportunities for those people who can afford to work from home. Like if you're a cook in a restaurant, obviously you can do it from home. Now, if that happens, what are the implications? What happened to commercial real estate market, for example? What about the places that people occupied? Also, the many government, including central government, federal government, is talking about shutting down all the evictions for non-paying tenants. Now, the history tells us that once you stop evictions, even those who are paying the rent will stop paying the rent. That's to take the free ride. Once this ban is lifted, then courts will be inundated with the eviction cases. And maybe in 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, those eviction cases will be processed. Now you got a bunch of people who are out on the street and nobody wants to rent them apartment because they have the trajectory or history of being evicted. So what I'm saying is that we sometimes make short-term decisions that have long-term bad implications. Distress market might, flourish because a lot of people will not be able to pay their mortgages. Genuine distress,
Right.
I just saw something that $1 billion worth of notes are being offered. This is the second time that the price has gone that low. Examples like that. So to me, first thing, like you're talking about 4 pillars, first thing is to protect ourselves, protect our family, and protect your finances. Be very spendthrift in terms of where you spend, what you spend, so you have money going forward. And lastly, let's look at this possibility. When was the last time when the entire country was shut down? In your life, where would you get this opportunity to spend time with your family? Quality time. Even though you're home, quality time. Then reading the books, writing books, talking to people on the phone, watching things that you thought you will watch, like good YouTube videos or TED Talk, anything for that matter, that you thought you will do one day, that one day is here. Because this too shall pass, and when you look back, the question will come, how have you taken advantage of this time? It's not your doing, it's just the way it happened. So what have you done to take advantage of it?
Right. You are very right. Very, very correctly. The things that you didn't do, think about it from this perspective. Every disaster is an opportunity. It's my favorite phrase. Every disaster is an opportunity for somebody. World Trade Center went down, a new one was built. So it is a creative destructionism, or destruction leads to further creation, is part of the process. This too shall pass. And the saying goes that, hey, stock market offers an opportunity right now. Buy low, sell high. There could not have been a better opportunity. If you have cash, make some prudent choices to get into the market at this point. Everything we are buying is 35% off the top. Important part also is that the bull market was having a major run and everybody was anticipating a correction. This correction has happened without political manipulation or market doing anything to that. So as a result of which, go back into the basics of your portfolios, of your retirement account, and look where you are. Find where the opportunities are. This is the business side and economy side of it. People have lost a lot of money and there will be no income for a while. But think about in terms of social values, your personal values. It is important to focus on that as well. What did we do? And I totally concur with Rakesh ji. Somebody asked me, how do you spend your time? I said, I'm writing an article which I have been postponing for a long time.
Right.
I'm reading a book that I have been wanting to read for a little while. Yeah, you don't have to watch TV all the time. And I would say, don't watch news all the time, because that can be depressing.
Yep.
Because news is all about disasters. And these days on the 24/7 channels, they have to, everything is a breaking news. Even one extra life gone is a breaking news. Tragedy indeed, but breaking news, no. The point of the matter is that how do we conduct ourselves? Are we going to revert back to our own, the way we were? Or are we going to take some lessons going forward? So not many people will turn vegan and vegetarian overnight. I don't expect that. But you have to modify and adjust. Your thoughts?
So very good points, Vibhuti Bhai. I'm not a stock market guy, so I cannot tell you what to buy, what not to buy, and also we don't know how long the recovery would be and when the real bottom is. Nobody can predict the real bottom. But I would like to give a plug to a friend of mine. His name is Dr. Alok Kumar. He wrote a book called Sciences of the Ancient Hindus, which is published in America and now is published in India. The reason I say read that book, because that book will teach us and our children the real significance of the wisdom of our forefathers, and from there we'll derive the confidence. And I give a very little example. हमारे घर में when we cook sabji, we put mustard seed, rai डालते हैं, right? I never figured out, not that I was curious, but I never figured out what the rai डालते हैं. So I was watching this guy, Dr. Michael Greger, who is an evidence-based nutritionist, and he talked about a compound called sulforaphane, which is very beneficial to human beings. It is made out of two compounds, myrosinase and glucosinolates. Now, if myrosinase and glucosinolates are combined, they taste like broccoli, and bugs don't like it, so they don't eat it. But when you cut the vegetables, the heat destroys some of the nutrients. However, if you put mustard first, then the mustard protects the nutrients. Look at the wisdom of Indians eating mustard. To me, this little example, and by the way, you Google Dr. Michael Greger and Google sulforaphane or mustard and cruciferous vegetable, you'll get this YouTube. This guy is truly an authority. He wrote the book How Not to Die, another good book. Another thing that bothersome to me, and I have a friend, he's a former captain in Marines. He and I were talking 2 days ago, and he said, Rakesh, after 45 years, I went and bought a gun. So I said, why did you buy a gun? He said, because when we in this country are 9 miles away from what he called as a civil insurrection, meaning people may mob anybody and everybody to get their meal. Now, it's a scary thought. And I said, how could that happen? And he said, look, it happened in Baltimore. He gave me an example of St. Louis. So, Vibhuti Bhai, we as Indians who are very peace-loving and genuinely kind and Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam type of people, I think we need to keep an eye open for that. We cannot discount the fact that live in a society where gun is a very prominent culture, and despite many mass shootings, we have not been able to pass a gun law banning the guns in this country. Think about it.
No, that's definitely because remember all the revolutions in the world that have happened in the past, it was about the economy. So when people go hungry, then your self-actualization doesn't matter. It matters that people need food to survive, and if they don't have job, they lose homes. It is going to create a panic. And I'm a little positive in the sense that I think fear is okay, but don't get panicky. Like the example which Rakesh ji gave earlier on, that people were fighting in American stores for toilet papers, whereas in the Indian stores, I went there myself.
Right.
But the thing is like this, that how do the minds work? Now, it is very important to share a very important personal information, experience of mine. I was in Costco. I just needed 5 items. The line in the Costco for checkout was up to the end of the store in Westbury.
Wow.
And I said, it will take me 2 hours to get out of these 5 items that I have with me. So I asked one of the staff that, brother, do I have to stay for an hour for this 5 items? And my theory, you don't lose anything for asking, proved true. So he looked at me, he said, no, brother, you need not be waiting for it. So he took me along outside. I came to the cashier, and here was the important part. The cashier tells me, you are not having anything else other than these 5 items? I said, no. He said, aren't you afraid? I said, why would I be afraid? I'm a God-loving man. I'm not a God-fearing man. So I'm very sure that God loves me and he will take care of me. And then she said, this is a God thing. God is making himself relevant.
Right.
Those who will die were the ones who didn't love God.
Right.
And I was blown away.
Right.
Blown away for a
so
different reason. This was scary. When you attribute you brainwashed into believing something.
Right.
That's dangerous. Don't get brainwashed. And that's the important thing for us to recognize, that God did not create religion. People did.
Right.
And thus, as religion practitioners, we need to know where we have our Lakshman Rekha.
Right.
You can't cross that line. It's very important. And that's where you talked about work from home. You are from American Express, so am I.
I know.
Way back in 91, when I came here, work from home did start in that company.
Right.
But it had to be stopped because those days the tracking mechanism and monitoring mechanism and data protection were not enough. But now it is. So we are going to see certain very important changes happening in the world around us. And the question is, Rakesh ji talked about the wisdom of the ancient Indian cooking and everything else. Information and wisdom is now available on Google. You don't need to read an encyclopedia. But if you don't use that knowledge and information, the wisdom loses out.
Correct.
And that's important. Your
Vibhuti
thoughts?
Bhai, excellent point, and I'm touched by your story in Costco because your behavior is completely opposite, because you follow the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam model. Let me have enough for my need, but not enough for my greed, because greed has no limit, no boundary. That's the important point. And you know what, when we start to think of community and our impact on the community, and you know, like 18 years ago when I became a vegan plant-based dieter, people made fun of me. For like 8 or 9 years, people made fun of me. And it's okay, that's, you know, what they wanted to do was their business. But realize today that for 1 pound of meat, the animal consume 20 pounds of corn. How many people can be fed instead of us partaking in that thing? 80% of our traffic in this country today is transporting essentials for those industries that, you know, the agriculture or animal based industry.
Right.
So there is an enormous cost to the society and to environment that our children will and our grandchildren will pay for.
Correct.
So we are long-term foolish, short-term wise, short-term foolish, long-term, you know, stupid. We want to make sure that we leave this planet better than what we inherited from our parents. And our question is, are we doing it?
Are we doing it? That's the question we end our program today, because wisdom comes from knowledge and experience and information. If we do not use that, if we do not use today's experience of coronavirus and the world around us,
And
what good are we?
great point.
You know, I learned it from my animals. They don't hoard. They eat when they are hungry. Let's learn something from animal kingdom.
Well, we have not learned, Vibhuti Bhai, unfortunately. Look, SARS happened. In a couple of years, we went back to the same business. Corona happened. I don't know. I hope by 2022, we become wiser and smarter. I pray.
Thank you, Rakesh ji, for giving your thoughts, and wonderful having you today in the program. And thank you for taking the time to come here today.
And
namaste, everybody.
Namaste to all your listeners and viewers. Thank you
and
so
be
much.
well, be blessed, and take care of yourself.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Good job, Vibhuti Bhai. You and I.